Hello and welcome ISS faculty and friends. Today we will be talking about how to use Microsoft Teams. We will think about how to get Teams started, how to prepare your seminars and your online sessions. We will talk about how to record your sessions and what to do in order to make the whole thing a bit more interesting. So first let's take a look at how you can find your course and set up your class.
Once you've started your software, Microsoft Teams, you want to go to Teams, and you will find that all your courses have previously been arranged by your computer. In this case, I need to go to All Teams first, and because it comes back to the page you were last, and then you find the course you want to work on. Let's take this one as an example. You will find that a lot of things are already prepared automatically. Now you want to look through the settings. So here is the three dots next to your course's name. That's the name of your team, and you want to manage your team. So you first maybe want to check whether you have all the people you need in your course. You can see this here, and you will see that all the participants of your seminar are already added to the team. This was automatically done by a robot. So in some cases you will need to add a TA. You can do that on the top right, add a member, and you just search for that person. As we have all the students in our database, you just choose that person and add that person. In my case, I already did this. She is a member of the team, but in general that needs to be done if you have a TA who is not automatically in the team already. And then you maybe want to change the rights of members. For example, if you have this student who is your TA, you might want to give her access to other rights. Let's say here, now she's a member, but I want to change her status to owner. This gives her basically the same rights as I have. You may want to check whether there are any requests to join the team. Sometimes I've had that once. Somebody needed to join. Somehow it wasn't in the team automatically, and she requested. I'd overseen that, and she missed the session. That was a pity. So check here whether there are any other who want to join, and you need to then confirm that that person has the right to join the team. We will come to channels in a moment. For the time being, I'll just show you that your channels are listed here, and you can add further channels. But we'll come back to that when we go to installing your sessions. Very importantly, in general, you want to go through some of the settings for your course. Now, I would recommend you to actually use a picture for your team because it really makes it easier to find and more convenient. So you change the picture here and add whatever you find is attractive or symbolic for your course. You can choose from these ready-made and, my opinion, horrible versions, or you can upload something of your own choice, and you just go to your computer and choose the file as, for example, your own, or whatever. So once you've done that, you probably also want to go through the rights of members and of guests. Owners have all possible rights, so there's nothing you need to change there because you are the owner. But members are your students, and you need to know that our system gives a rather liberal provision of rights to our students.
Now let's take a look at how you can set up your sessions and get everybody on board. So the next thing you want to do is you want to create a new channel in order to define your next session. For that, you add a channel, and then you have to define all the properties of that channel. So in this case, I would say session 7, week 7 of our semester, and that's the 24th of March, 2020. And you might add a description, like in this case, our topic would be social media and terrorism. Pardon me. And add the channel. So now that you've added the channel, you want to add some properties to that. So the first thing you want to probably do is add some files. If you add files, you go to this upper rider here, files, and then you just drag and drop files into that folder. That is very, very elementary, and everybody should know how that works. So you just take a file, drag it over, drop it in, and once you've dropped the file into there, it might take a while now. My computer's slowed down horribly. This will be accessible to all students, but read-only. They cannot delete or manipulate or change the files you put here. Like, for example, in general, you want to have the syllabus there and readings that are good for all the course. But for your session here, you might have specific readings that you want students to prepare with. So the next thing you want to add is you want to terminate your session. So for that, you go to Calendar, and in Calendar, you define, as in Outlook, when and where and what, and your students will be notified of this in their Outlook calendars. You can do anything you would do usually with Outlook when you do that. And once you've done that, you want to probably notify students about the next session. So, for example, you want to say, here is our 7th session. But if you want to notify students, then what you need to do is you need to actually mention them with the @ messaging. So you start with the @ sign, and then you either choose the person you want to contact, and then you can send individual messages and they will be then pushed to their mobile devices. Or in this case, what you need to do is you want to message to the entire course. So if you type in an element of the course's name, you will get that, and can then type, so hello everybody, session starting in 10 minutes, let's say. Then you press send, just like with every messaging system, and you can play around with emojis and with GIFs and so on and so forth, and that's kind of fun, little elements, but of no consequence. Maybe one more, I'll delete this because this is my real course. Maybe one more element that you want to make use of is you add a form. Now this depends on apps you add to your course, but I'll show you later how to do that. But here, for the time being, just show you how to do that. It's very simple, and you can do that while you're teaching, and I've done that. It kind of works if you're not too busy thinking about your next sentence. So let's ask, are you on campus? So you can use standard answers, but in this case, maybe it might be not the right version. Also, you can add further options. Let's say, leaving soon. And you can allow people to give several answers, but in this case, I wouldn't recommend that. So this is a very convenient tool. And the thing is that once you send this, you can actually see during class how what the results are. So I can, as a participant too, I can say, okay, I'm on campus or I'm not. And let's say I'm not on campus because I'm at home. And once I send that, everybody can see the results in real time. So now that we've learned how to set up your course and how to set up an online session, let's talk about how to do those online sessions. So how to start them, then establish some ground rules, how to mute all in case of technical problems, how to blur the background if you're working in a shared working environment. You want to know how to share windows, that's very important. And maybe you want to work with multiple cameras and devices. So especially important for Whiteboard. So let's talk about that. So now that you are set and ready to go, you want to first check your equipment. This is really important because if something goes wrong with your equipment, that's a serious situation when you're going live. So you go to your personal settings here, and what you then want to do is you go to settings and then choose your devices. And here you need to check that you are using the correct devices. This is my setup, and you can see that also the camera is chosen. This is the IPvo, and you can, and this is very important, then do a test call. And once you do the test call, you can then get a feedback about the quality of your call. So you call there, you call a robot, and then he asks you to say a couple of words, and I'll just stop that here. Then you really know whether things are working, and then you can start your actual conversation. And you do that simply by going down there to starting the conversation. That's the camera symbol, and you just press that, and then you get a start screen. Maybe you want to say what this is about, and then you actually start the conversation and you go. Now that the session is running, one of the things you need to decide is whether you want to see your students or not. If you allow them to turn off their screens, in my experience, they will. And that means you'll be talking to a wall. You don't even see faces. To me, that's very difficult. I find it difficult in general to speak without physical presence, but even more when I can't see people I'm talking to. So on the other hand, it costs bandwidth. Important maybe also to know that some colleagues make this mandatory, and they do not count participation if students do not turn on their camera, because they could be doing anything. Okay, so one of the technical things that I want to show you is that, and for this I need to share my screen with you. Just a second. So is that you can mute your students. This is very important. So when you can see all the participants, You can also mute them, and that is important. By default, your setting is that when you start the conversation, everybody's muted except for you, the presenter. But sometimes then students turn on their device and have loudspeakers on, and then you get a feedback, and that's very annoying for everybody. That being said, you definitely want to use the chat function, and you can have that running all the time while you're talking with the students conversing. You can start, I showed you a form, for example. You can mix it up. You can do lots of interesting stuff with apps too. And it's really nice to get feedback. Also, very often you want to check whether people can hear you, and then you can ask that in the chat and you get a yes or no. So that is very important, a very important part of the interactivity. That being said, you also want to share screens. Now, I cannot show you how to start that, but it starts here because I'm actually now sharing my screen with myself so that I can record what I'm doing. I'm actually recording this right now by sharing the screen. But you can go to the screen that you're working with. If you have two screens like I do, make sure that you share the right one. You'll find there is a red square running around the screen that is active. You can also share windows so you don't have the entire screen, and then you can just show students one specific bit. This will come in a pull-down menu here, and you will just see what to choose between. You can also switch to your PowerPoint presentation, which is probably the most important part for you, so that you can start the presentation, and that then will be the center of focus of attention of your students. That is about it. Maybe just a couple of words about blurring the background. As I said, if you're in a shared work environment, this might be important, or if you just don't like the idea of your students seeing what you have in your home. But as you can see, it looks kind of weird. It's kind of spacey, and students told me they didn't like it. So I guess I won't be using this that much, but tastes different. So also this is where you can activate subtitles. Now this is really cool. It helps to concentrate. I use subtitles a lot, and I really recommend it because the automatic recognition is superb. Now I have to raise my arm a bit so you can see that. You can see the translation is correct word for word. So there you have it. Also, and for the next lesson, this is where you start and stop recordings. That's what I'll do right now. One important caveat, that is when you're sharing videos, you definitely need to turn on the system audio because otherwise students don't have any sound. That is, you see the video, you hear the video, but what you hear is only on your system. So if you want the students to hear what you're doing, you need to turn on the system audio. Now, in order to turn on the system audio, you have to think of that before you start the video, because it's when you start sharing a screen, you click on this little square in the middle with the arrow down, and then you see a place where you can check this share system audio. Do that when you're showing video. When you're not sharing videos, this is the important thing, then you need to have that turned off, because if you're showing charts and discussing them, for example, what happens is when the system audio is shared and students are discussing with their open mics, and then most probably their loudspeakers on, you will get a feedback, and that's again very annoying for everybody. So make sure in that situation to turn off the sharing of system audio. Now for the question of using a whiteboard. Now, there's several possibilities. There are very interesting possibilities of sharing Whiteboard with the Whiteboard app. I will come back to that later. But also you want to have something where you can just very conveniently work with students. Now, one thing that I use is a webcam called IPvo, and it's this one. And I can really recommend it. It's quite good, and it costs about €100, but you can use it both as a webcam and as a device for whiteboarding. So here's how you can work with the IPvo. I've shown that in the previous tutorial, but maybe just show it quickly. So very simple. You just take whatever you are writing and share it with the students. You can do that live, and I have my plan here for this tutorial. It's a very nice tool. You can use printouts, you can use charts, and you can actually write in them in real time, and it gives a good old retro feeling. I like it. Alternatively, you can attach a second device, which could be your iPad or whatever, and you can also link it up to the conference at the same time and use that. Maybe have an extra lesson about that sometime. Or even you can use the IPvo and use your tablet to write on it in class. Both is possible. So I hope that's a good idea. Otherwise, there's still the good old-fashioned whiteboard, the actual whiteboard, where you can stand and actually draw for class. Now, with regard to recording your sessions, it's very important to remember that you stop your recording, because you actually do have to click that, as you've seen before. If you don't and just merely hang up, the recording will be automatically posted in that channel, and students will see maybe whatever happened after, and it will be recorded. So be careful that you explicitly stop the recording. Also, I would really make use of the possibility of taking short videos of statements, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, wonderful. And you can record them just like this in Teams. You just have to start a conversation in a given channel. Don't worry, nobody's going to pick up. You could potentially reach everybody, but if you don't announce it, people won't be coming in, sneaking in. There's one problem that I'd like to see solved. That is, if we had the opportunity to start our own teams, then we also could have a team where we just record our statements. Anyway, the recording then will be online, and you can just download it and work with it, and you can then use Teams as a platform for your videos. Now, also, this means you will probably want to do some post-production. That means you want to cut something off. That's also true if you're producing for your PowerPoint presentation. So it's kind of important. It's a very simple tool. If you right-click on your video in PowerPoint, you can actually find there's a kind of razor blade symbol. Find a tool to shorten your video. You can just move the start or the back end of the video, and that is a very quick trick to kind of smoothen the edges of your video a bit. But you can also use free software for editing. You don't have to get Adobe Cloud, which is the best. But you can get software like VideoPad. VideoPad is free, and it gives you all the necessary tools for basic editing. Now, if you want to really be ambitious, then you might want to try DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is free. It's incredibly powerful. You need a powerful computer though. And you can actually do pro productions on that, which you don't want to. But anyway, you can download that for free and maybe play around with that. You want to mix it up. You want to have change of perspective. You want to have change of location. You need to have a change of rhythm, of dynamics. This is a call for creativity and also learning to use the instruments of our trade, the new instruments, so to say, of teaching. And I think this is a huge challenge, but might really be fun. In my opinion, it's very important to mix things up, and one of the most important things we can do, and we can do almost more efficiently than in real live teaching situations, is integrating multimedia and products of other people. We don't hesitate to use books or articles others wrote. Why not use media products of others? So these can be explanatory videos. I think that we are making huge progress right now, and we should be actually catching up in terms of how to communicate science. This is a very important thing, and times are really moving on here, and we need to be up to date. The second thing that you can use multimedia products and integrate into your recordings and or live teaching are primary sources where you analyze. In my case, it's obvious that you can analyze, let's say, the Russian news by just taking the visuals that they give and bringing that to our sessions. But I think you will find that if you think about it, in almost any session, you can always bring some kind of interesting and new form. So thank you guys very much for your attention, and feel free to share if you find this useful. Also, you might have questions. Don't hesitate to contact me and ask. Bye-bye.